Hey, Colin Hiles here, aka the Mindset Guy, with today's video, which is, I now promise, the last video in the self-esteem series. So this is video number 5, and it sort of builds nicely on the other videos. So if you haven't watched the other videos, please go and watch those videos because it'll make more sense. You'll be taken on a nice journey to get to this point. And in this video, I want to talk about embracing your imperfections. So I've put up here, embrace your imperfections, right? It's the only way to be happy, to be content, to be secure in yourself, to have high regard for yourself, is to let yourself off the hook a little bit. Now let's talk about perfectionism, because as we've been saying in the last video, perfectionism is one of the masks that we put on. And really, perfectionism is about trying to earn the respect, the approval, the acceptance from others. It's more of it's an outward focus, as we've said, more down this end. You know, we look external for the measuring sticks to measure ourselves up against. And then we said that the self-concept works off of an image, the perfect image or the imperfect image, depending on what it is that we're thinking about. So we could think, you know, I'm incompetent because we've got this image up here of what competence looks like, or what perfect looks like. Now the consequence of that, the consequence is we tend to have black-white thinking. I'm either good or I'm not good. There's no I'm not good and I can get to good and then I can get to great. It's very much, you know, black-white. And then of course, I'll try, don't get a very good result, and it goes back because I'm not very good, or I'm, you know, hopeless, or I'm a failure or something like that, which is much more around the self-critic. So what we do with that type of thinking, this perfectionism thinking, is we set ourselves up for more of what we've been calling hugs, right down here. Hurts, unworthiness, guilt, and shames. And rather than thinking about the crazy logic, what we do is we become addicted to trying to be more perfect and more perfect. So we try to look perfect, right? We try to live perfect. We try to do the perfect things, but once again, only to find that it creates more hurts and, you know, hugs, hurts, unworthiness, guilt, and shames. So it's a bit of a spiral down. So what's the antidote? Well, the antidote is to really embrace our imperfections. Now, a question: what does it mean to be human? So hold that a second, because the ego, this part up here, tends to look for how I'm different from other people, how I differentiate myself from other people. Whereas the heart, which is more down here, tends to look for how I'm the same as other people. And what are the things that we have in common? What does it mean to be human? Well, to be human is to live a messy life. To be human is to be imperfect. That's what we all have in common. What we also all have in common are hugs. Because show me somebody that doesn't have any hurts. Show me somebody that doesn't have feelings of unworthiness at times. Show me someone that doesn't have any feelings of guilt. Show me someone that doesn't have any feelings of shame about certain things. That's what it means to be human. So actually, it's what connects us all. It's what causes us to have real compassion with one another. So all of a sudden, when you start thinking about that, it's what we have in common. It's what you have in common with me and I have in common with you, is that we're imperfect. And you know, one of the funny lessons that I've learned through experience is that I didn't have a great schooling experience. I didn't enjoy school. I couldn't wait to leave school. I left school with labels of slow, dyslexic, troublesome, and backwards. My self-concept was that I wasn't very bright, I was thick, that I couldn't learn very quickly. So I wasn't that intelligent. That was my self-concept. And of course, as a result of that self-concept, because what we picture causes us to feel, what we believe causes us to feel, I didn't have high self-regard for myself. And so what I did when I left school was I took jobs well below my potential. And at any time I began to move above the image that I had for myself, because others would see potential in me, I'd sabotage, or I'd leave the job. I'd go for another job. And you know, the fear that sat right down here, we talked about fear was here, was actually the fear of failure, the fear of ridicule, the fear of rejection. These are all really, really big for me. But here's the thing, here's what I found. Actually, the thing that I tried to hide, this, that I'm not very clever and I'm not very intelligent, is actually my strength. And if you take the success of these videos that I put out and just go onto YouTube, if you're not on YouTube, then have a look at what people put. It's what they enjoy that I have the ability to simplify success principles and communicate it in a way that's easy to understand. Well, that's because, you know, it's my inability to grasp the sort of, or make things very difficult, that means that I'm able to simplify things so that I understand it, which means I can communicate. I don't have a great vocabulary of words, so I'm not using words that people don't understand. So the feedback that I've had is that that's what makes these little videos work. And of course, not just video, all the work that I do in the corporate world as well, that actually I have ability to simplify things. And that was, so my imperfection is what people, my perceived imperfection, I should say, is what people really enjoy about the way that I deliver content. And so that's got me thinking, well, what other imperfections may be actually my strengths? So they've been perceived, and so as a result of a perceived incompetence, I've tried to overcompensate by making sure that I look intelligent and I, you know, sound intelligent and I do intelligent things, right? So it was a really interesting one. So you might want to think about that yourself. You know, what are your imperfections? Now let's just move on to the last thing I want to talk about on this very last video, and that is, I want to give you two stories of two individuals that I've seen in the corporate world. So two very senior leaders of FTSE 100 companies. So the top 100 companies. So I'm going to talk about the first one, which we've done 360 and we're sat round the table, and I'm sat over here and the CEO sat here, and he's got his 360 in front of me. And the 360 is, it's information from a boss, information from peers, information from the team, and information from any other. So it's feedback, okay, and it's 360. So he's got his 360 in front of him and he says, so what you guys are telling me here is that I'm not a very good listener. Is that right? Pulls his face. Silence. And I'm sat over here and I'm thinking, this is an interesting moment. And then the person to his right over here pipes up and says, no, I think you're a pretty good listener. But really that was his starter for 10. So then he goes, well, what I'm also reading here is that I never really give positive feedback. Is that right? Once again, silence. Tumbleweed could have gone over the boardroom table. And then this person from his left pipes up and says, yeah, we only really hear from you when we screw up. We don't really hear from you otherwise. Silence. I'm over here thinking this is an interesting moment. And then this person pipes up and says, no, I don't think that's the case, you know. Now I had to jump in there and go, whoa, hang on. But here's the point. What was he teaching in that moment, right? What was he teaching? Don't be vulnerable. Don't own up to your imperfections. Now, what do you think happened when we went round the table of those leaders? Do you reckon they were willing to talk about their imperfections? Of course not. No, on went the masks, firmly in place, the personas, right, firmly in place. What's the trust like within the team, do you think? Not very high. What do they do when they leave the boardroom? They all talk about one another. Now let me contrast that with another story. This is an individual that pulled together her team of senior finance directors. And it was a 2-day process, and part of that is she wanted to get feedback. Now, she was an internal hire, and so there was already some interesting dynamics of individuals that believe they should have got that job. And so there's a little bit of politicking going on in the room. She's 6 months in, and she said, Colin, I need to get some feedback from the team. Can you help me facilitate this? I said, absolutely. So I want you to imagine she sat on a chair, and around her she has 17 of her most senior finance directors from around the world, right? And so she says, look guys, I'm 6 months in, I've been very controlling, I've had to be controlling to get my head over the numbers and understand the way that it works. And I know I've come across that way, and that's not the way I want to come across. So I want to get some feedback from you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about these 3 things and give me some feedback. What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to start doing? What do I need to continue doing? Stop, start, continue. So if you could just make some notes, I'm going to hear from all of you. And so, we put some music on, everyone made some notes, and then we went round. 17 people went stop, start, continue. And I've got to tell you, some of those individuals were very candid and very direct and very frank with their feedback. And all she did was just nodded, accepted, made notes, nodded, accepted. 17 people. So 17 people heard everyone else say what they wanted to say. And at the end, she just said, thank you. I'm going to simulate all of this, think about all of this, and I'm going to put it in a reply to you all of what you can expect me to work on. Now, what was interesting about that was the conversations that went on in the coffee break when we went outside. Because even some of the individuals in the room there that were maybe not that, for her, had shifted and had changed. And we're saying that took a lot of courage to do that. A lot of courage. I'm not sure I could have done that. No, I'm not sure I could have done that either. But here's what I think was wonderful to watch. See, in doing that, she was being loving. And the group picked up on her vulnerability. They picked up on that vulnerability, that willingness to be completely, right, tell me what it is that I need to improve. I'm not perfect. And she was being lovable at the same time. And that you could sense some healing going on in the room in some of those relationships. And so, when we are able to say that I don't have all the answers, when we're able to say I'm not perfect, but I'm work in progress, I'm working. It doesn't mean that's where I am, doesn't mean that we don't have aspirations, but we stop comparing ourselves against others and begin to compare ourselves against ourselves. So, where I am now is where I am now, but this is where I want to be. And life is messy. Life is messy. To be human means to live a messy life. Relationships break down. Some individuals can, betray you. The job that you wanted, someone else can take. You get into a lift and you cough and you fart at the same time, right? Sometimes the hair doesn't go right. They're not the way you want it to go, or the clothing doesn't fit the way you want it to fit. I mean, it's messy to be human. So we should embrace and rejoice in it all, in all of our imperfections. And maybe, as I said, maybe that there's strengths in those imperfections, but unless you explore them first, you'll never know. So why don't you, as a way of finishing now this self-esteem journey, why don't you below let us know what you consider to be your imperfections, the things that you would say are your imperfections, and if any of them are your strengths, let us know as well, right? Just be honest and be frank and be upfront and be vulnerable. Put yourself out there. Type something in that you may not want to type in. All right, you go for it. So I want to thank you for all the amazing feedback, and especially the feedback on the download that I gave you last time. A few of you have emailed through and saying that already you can feel the difference, and that's building self-esteem. So thank you very much for that. I'm glad you've enjoyed this journey that we've gone through. Now 5 videos around self-esteem, but it's a big topic, it's an important topic. And if you remember, what started this journey was really a tragic story. And so help me get the word out there. Help spread these videos around. Maybe someone will see them when they really need it, when they're really down, when they are, believing in their imperfections, when they are causing themselves to experience more hurts, more feelings of unworthiness, more guilt and more shames. You as a friend or you as a family member could make that difference. So thank you very much. This is Colin Hiles signing off from the self-esteem video series. Give me some feedback. 1, didn't enjoy it, 10, enjoy it. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.